11:59 of Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Yeah, welcome everybody to our Daily Gun Show. Come to you live every weeknight at midnight Eastern, or approximately that time of day, night. And we go live for an hour and we talk about guns and different topics each day. On Mondays, we talk about the activism, being an activist, motivation, skills, tools, community, and all that kind of good stuff. So tonight, thought we might talk about tools that are used or useful for a Second Amendment activist in 2022. So some of the first things you're going to need is probably, I was thinking phone last time we did this, but I don't know if anybody's got another idea for a more important tool in 2022. I should say we record these live on YouTube each night at midnight Eastern, and people do show up. We had a bunch of people show up, and then we had to restart the show here. So Woods is out there, Wesley's out there. I don't know, again, if somebody has an idea of something that's more useful or more important than a phone at this point. But I don't think a phone necessarily has to be a telephone. You want to have some sort of a handheld device, but if it's not technically a telephone, if it doesn't have a telephone number and make phone calls, have service through one of the providers or a carrier, you can still be effective with that. You don't have to even have your own internet connection in 2022. There's definitely things that are possible to use Wi-Fi, use other people's internet, use internet at work or school, church, or someplace where you go. And then there's options to have just internet, just buy internet from the provider instead of a phone line, and then use a phone type of device to Wi-Fi over that internet connection. Woods is saying an attitude and a positive attitude. We have activists that aren't positive, and I mean an attitude, an ambition too. I don't even know if you need that. There's activists out there that are unintentional activists, aren't there? There's activists out there that are probably trying to do one thing and instead motivating people to do something else. There are, well, like I guess I already said unintentional, but the accidental. But yeah, I hear you. Having a motivation to do the stuff in the first place is definitely a good idea. Now I'm dealing with another bug. No, I'm not, because sick of bugs tonight. Tablet, I don't know. I'm not a tablet person, so let us know in the comments if you're listening to this in the future or as a podcast. There are comments out there. I don't know if you're listening to this, on headphones doing work or something. It might not be necessarily right next to a place where you can leave comments, but if you are listening to this at a desk or at a place where you've got a phone there where you can leave comments, feel free to use the comments on the different platforms. We do these shows live. We don't record scripted presentations or productions. Instead, we participate in live conversations. So we encourage the use of the comment fields. We read them, and that way we can use people's insight and ideas in future podcasts and conversations. So I don't use a tablet that much. I just haven't used one. So they're pretty much like what I'm talking about, though. That idea of having a device that's more portable than a computer, but not necessarily a phone where it has to have a phone number attached to it and the carrier service and all that. All of our libraries have Wi-Fi in the parking lot. Yeah, there's more and more places that have Wi-Fi, especially if you look for it, you'll find it. So, so I guess I was saying as for addressing the act out attitude and having a positive attitude that Woods brought up. I'm just sitting here saying stuff, so I get to have the mic. Again, feel free to leave comments about it. But I don't think we have all these. We do have some people that are positive, and we definitely have people that only post positive things, or when they are feeling positive. Doesn't mean everybody's always positive for sure, but I don't think we have just positive activists. We have plenty of activists who are mopey or sky is falling, like you'd say, or that are never satisfied, or are satisfied all the time, I guess. But so we have a mix, and I think that's necessary for the so that we don't get complacent or just assume everything is great. To try things out and to what is that commercial? Let's give it. What's that kid's name? He'll eat it. What's that name? What's that commercial with the kid and the cereal? Mikey. Try give it to Mikey. See, he'll eat it. You got to have a Mikey around, otherwise nobody's eating the bad cereal, I guess. So I think a phone is definitely a place to start. You can get information from phone. You can get apps, free software. What am I yawning so much for? Free software and paid software, but useful software that will let you accomplish a lot of stuff, a lot of tools. And being in a phone, it'd be pretty portable. Beyond that, though, I don't like a phone. I mean, I have a phone, but I don't have a bunch of phones, and I don't do much with the phone. I do. I guess I use it a lot, but I don't do everything with the phone. I am much more comfortable on a computer, having big enough screens to be able to see things like web pages or forms or pieces of paper-sized documents. I like to be able to see those in full size, ideally, and a big enough monitor, see them, completely. I wish I had a mute on the microphone here so I could just mute every time I'm on. I guess that's the disadvantage of doing the show in the midnight time slot is I'm going to be tired sometimes. All right, so share things like DC Project, FPC, social media often. I don't know what that means, so leaving some shorthand notes here. But so having a phone is going to give you a bunch of tools. Having a computer, tablet, that kind of thing is probably important. Having what else would be a useful tool for somebody who's being an activist? I would say a library, some books, either on electric or real, to do some I don't want to call it research, but reading when that mood hits you, or when it's necessary, or some people read often, or some people read with some kind of what's the word? Some sort of discipline. Projects where they'll do some effort. There's a lot of people that do these self. What would you call it? Like a, in addition to exercise, they'll do a lot of different challenges and things, self-help, I guess, projects or campaigns where they'll read a bunch of stuff, they'll do a bunch of stuff, they'll do a bunch of exercise and all this. So a lot of times people are reading, those times, and that's where it's good to have a library with some Second Amendment stuff in it. Having a shared common knowledge of what's in those books could be useful. There's a lot of websites out there. There's a lot of feed. There's a lot of news that comes through on a timely basis. It comes and then goes. It's here for a while and then it's not on the headlines anymore. That stream of information it's important to some people. It's critically important to some people. It's some people do everything they can to rally against that. So the main thing I think about that type of information is it's not possible to master it. All you can do is get used to where it's coming from and anticipate when it might show up again or have great sources, but it's a never-ending stream. Quit licking. It's a never-ending stream, and you can't do much except get used to the stream. With books, though, I guess where I'm getting at with that is with books, with the library, you can read the same books as everybody else. You can be part of that club that has read, whatever the book is. So having a library, not that these books are magic or that the books say everything that's going on, but the books there's not that many Second Amendment books for one. They'll give you information that's useful, but it'll give you a common set of information that others are using. So it'll give you some insight as to where they're coming from. Again, there's not that many books and not that many people have read them. And then the information in the books will give you the complete context. So I can't tell you, there's no way really to take, I just don't have the ability to tell you how interesting it is to hear or to read, I guess, something from Neil Knox in his book, The Gun Rights War? No, The War on Guns, whatever Neil Knox's book is that I was reading for a while there. I was attempting to read it as a book on tape or whatever in sections on Sundays. So while I was reading that, there was so much stuff in there because I have read portions of it before, but I'd never read it through. So it's a project for me as well as the opportunity for people that might want to just listen to it if they want to hear me say it. But the content, the data that's in that book is referenced often and has been referenced many times incorrectly. Is that the way to say it? So by reading these books and understanding the real happenings or reading the stories for real, you're not dependent on people's interpretation of those stories. So somebody read the book and what they took out of it gets repeated and gets alluded to and then gets exaggerated or gets summarized and eventually warps into something else completely. And we see that constantly. You don't know maybe, but it happens constantly with everybody who references the NRA hates whatever, the NFA or the GCA. People, I don't know where they get stuff. It's not possible to know where they get their real versions of how that history went down. But that's one of those things that we'd be in a different position if everyone read books. Back in before my time, that's all you had was books. So everyone read the books. And then it was this big bragging, whatever, like measuring contest about how many books you have read. Like how big is your stack of books? How much is your recall on these books? The books were the facts, or at least the books mentioned the facts or documented the facts, tell us where the facts came from, or showed us some kind of common information about it. We have so much more than that today that's evolved beyond that. But what we've evolved past is that ability for some people to have all of the knowledge that's in the books. And that, it's not possible anymore. There's just so much more knowledge than the books. So I think it's worthwhile to have some of these books in your library and to have read some of them so that, we just are better with the understanding today because we have this awareness of where everybody was years ago. I don't know if I'd put the library on where I'd put that on in priority, though. I just said it first or second, I guess. I don't think it's the most important thing. Having some books in a library is important for some people, for sure. And if you've got an opportunity like you drive every day, here, let's say some people go, oh, I'm not a 2A activist because there's a bigger 2A activist or a better 2A activist. I can't be a 9. I mean, I can't be a 2A activist. I shoot 9mm. A lot of people will say that to themselves. And you might think, yeah, that's true. But here's the thing. Let's say you drive to work every day and you got a 2-hour commute because you live somewhere where that's the deal. And you're driving to work and you've got all that time to listen to what? Podcasts, books on tape, something. Your brain then listens to all those books on tape. You can leave it like that, go to work, be selfish with that information, just absorb it, and then move on with your life. Or you could do some kind of podcast at lunch where you think about the book on tape, and maybe you get I don't know how long a book on tape is that you're reading or listening to, or how long your commute is. But let's say you're getting a chapter in. Let's say you're getting a half the book in. Let's say it's a long enough commute that you get the whole book in. Maybe you're a truck driver or something. You get the whole book. Whenever it's over, or whenever you got these increments and you've got 20 minutes, record something. It doesn't have to be your final copy, but you record something. And now, after a book is over, you've got these recordings of each chapter. So unless you got some kind of brain like magic that I don't got, you can I can read a book, and it doesn't mean I remember the beginning of the book anymore. I vaguely remember what was being said, especially if it's an informational book as opposed to a fiction book, a story or something. So having your own notes that you've recorded along the way, if nothing else, are notes for yourself to make a better summary or presentation or review of that book or the information presented in the book. And now you, as the Second Amendment advocate that is in denial, you take that resource that you've got, that 2-hour commute, and you turn that into summaries of discussions, summaries of podcasts, summaries of books on tape, summaries of radio shows. And you might not, maybe you do put the timestamps in. You might not be able to get the timestamps while you're driving, but maybe you can. Maybe you're sitting on a train. I know people that sit on trains. Some people sit on fancy airplanes for commuting because they're traveling somewhere for like a weekend gig or something. So you're sitting on an airplane for 5 hours. Maybe you can jot down some timestamps and leave some notes in the comments of a video at the timestamps, and then go back and collect your own notes and accumulate those into a blog post or a newsletter that goes out and says, hey, here's the best podcasts or the podcast that I listened to this week. And here's the timestamps of all the interesting stuff that was in them. Is that a service for anybody? I don't know. Maybe it allows other people to do a lot more research. Maybe it creates a situation where people emulate that and start to do that, so that people who are sitting around not thinking of themselves as participants in the big picture start to use their time like that. And now people in podcasts quit wasting their time chatting about idle chitter chatter because they know people are going back and making notes, right? There's consequence. People know that people are paying attention to their podcast. Maybe they start paying more attention to their own podcast while they're doing them. So yeah, I'm going to say that spun off a little bit there, but having a library, having a phone. What's next? Woods is saying I take notes when reading 100%. Bob's out there. Barbecue is saying what Wood said. It helps to read anti-books, Shannon Watts, etc. I like to have Shannon read the books to me, but I'm working on that still. So what other kind of stuff would it be useful to have as a Second Amendment advocate? I'd say an understanding of who the other advocates are. So kind of lay of the land, so to speak. Pay attention to who else is out there, what their areas of interest are, what it is that, what do they do? Some people play one lane and that's all they do. Other people go around doing other, all kinds of things. Some people just go around shaking hands. Some people, they literally just stand there. They don't do anything. They're just there all the time, and they like to be there all the time, right? So having some general awareness of who all's out there. There's a lot of people, like I say, that We have a large community. We have a changing. There's no barriers to entry to the being a Second Amendment advocate. If you want to be one, you are one. A lot of people don't realize they are one and are, right? And then there's a whole bunch of people that just go, oh, hot dang, I can put that shingle on my resume. So I'm ding, ding, ding. Now I'm a 2A activist. So I don't know where I was going with that. We'll keep going. So I guess I was saying that what we end up with is we have a lot of these brand new 2A activists, and they go, well, I want to do something. I want to get in here and be that activist I've always wanted to be, or that I see out there. And they start promoting everybody. Well, without an understanding of who's legit, then you're promoting a bunch of people who are probably exploiting your nativity, whatever, because you are experienced. They are exploiting what you don't know. And that's how some organizations even exist. Colorado, $16 million. They depend on people who don't know who they are and acknowledge some garbage that they do. Very little garbage that they do gets acknowledged. And then what happens is some people see that other people are promoting it. And, the normal tendency is to, let's promote something that's on our side, that's promoting what we're promoting. And that's how the exploiters will kind of set up at the bar. The fair weather fans, they'll sit at the bar with the colors on when you need them, or when you don't need them, actually, when they can see that there's a bunch of people that aren't going to notice they're there. But as soon as the place clears out a little bit and everybody kind of knows each other, they're going to be gone. They can't stick around at that point because everybody knows who they are and they'd be found out, right? So with that, I'd say having an understanding of who the playing field is probably a good idea. Now, having an understanding of who the antis are, that would be interesting. How many people can say that they have an understanding of who the antis even are? I mean, we know who they are when they stand up and say shit against our property or cast aspersions at us or marginalize us. Challenge our right to own property. But aside from the ones that stand up and make a real good living doing that, how do we know who they are? Is it worth saying that a Second Amendment advocate should know some of the laws? I think so. It sounds kind of dumb, like that one lady from Texas on Come and Talk It the other day. Come and Talk It, a radio show out of Texas, yes, Sunday, had an excellent presentation. They had the radio show host and some lady, and that they were the moderators, and then there was, I think, 6 people on each side, or maybe 8 people on each side, something like that. It was hard to say because not everybody talked. They had some chairs in a room. The moderator and, the radio show host and this lady were sitting there being moderators in the middle, sitting in 2 chairs, and then on either side of them, they're sitting in 2 chairs, looking at the camera, let's say, and then on the right side and on the left side, there's like 6 or 8 chairs with people sitting in them and microphone. And then they went live for the radio show for an hour. Maybe it was 2 hours. I think it was 2 hours. It went pretty quick. And they went around and just addressed different things and let the antis go weird and let the pro-gun people say their weird things. And, a bunch of people didn't change each other's minds, but it was interesting to see a bunch of people sit in a room together. And that was on the Come and Talk It radio show yesterday. So I guess I'm using that as an example because there was a point at which this lady, who is some sort of representative, unfortunately, elected representative, stood up and said something to the effect of, well, the online sales. And then she said something like the one website that you can go online and you can just buy guns across state lines or over the internet or whatever she said. And, without any kind of background checks. That's how the criminals get their guns. And then somebody had said something about how that doesn't really happen and that it really goes to a 4473 and that the sites are well aware of criminal activity and they prevent it from happening. And then she sort of said, oh, yeah. So later on in the show, they started asking all the people in the room who hadn't really said anything if they had anything to say. And this one kid gets the mic and says, when that lady over there didn't know that a 4473 need gets filled out with an online sale, yet she wants to create more laws, something to the effect of shining light on that little dynamic. And it worked for us right there because she was the dingus who didn't know the laws. But every time it happens the other way around, when an activist, someone who's pro-rights, attempts to say something and get something wrong, yeah, it might be a typo, right? It might be a honest mistake, but it doesn't matter, right? The other side is going to use it, and maybe they're going to make a big deal about it, but more than likely, it won't even be a big deal. It'll just be silently, people will hear a mistake and go, if that person is truly using that mistake as their evidence, then I can't believe anything they say. And they won't challenge you. Most people will just take that as part of their understanding the situation and move on. So you can lose a lot of people by not being aware of the laws. And the easiest thing is, if you don't want to learn all laws because they're kind of a pain, is just don't bring them up. Just allude to them. Don't say anything's legit. Don't see anything as 100%, and then nobody can hold it against you, right? So an understanding of laws, or at least an understanding of how to allude to the laws without being specific and losing an argument or losing somebody's attention based on perceived inaccuracies. What else would be good to have? I think having, at least for Second Amendment activists, having some sort of a little puppy or maybe a kitten. Now, if you can't have a puppy or a kitten, you have a monkey, that's fine. But something like a puppy is good because, well, then that way everybody knows that you're legit, and there's nothing wrong with having a puppy. You save a puppy from being lonely or being sad. So it's a good idea. Let's see, what else should a Second Amendment advocate have? I would say some sort of an ability to travel would be handy, or willingness to go to events, because there are quite a few of those. Going to some of the rallies, everybody's going to have their own flavors of what they want to attend, but there's rallies that can be pretty interesting. There are what I'm going to call the evolution of gun shows, which are, well, happening in various ways, but the gun show has been destroyed by political and apathy and bad business, bad decisions from promoters, and lots of reasons. But the lack of gun shows has created an opportunity for the evolution, the next. So some of those shows are worth going to, and a lot of them are focused on 2A. A lot of them will have, at least be open-minded to 2A, if for nothing else than the little sliver of wherever 2A affects their game or whatever, cosplay or whatever it is they're into. But often the kids that are being involved in these new events and stuff are paying more attention to the NFA or to the 2A. So often they have some element of 2A in them, but being available for those kind of events, of course, industry shows is useless unless you're interested as an activist to go and change and cut and make headway, because the industry shows aren't interested in any kind of politics. They almost always shy away from it, and then when necessary, virtue signal all around it, but they suck at it, and they end up virtue signaling and just being complete. All the stuff that would make a bad activist just happens with more money with the industry. They suck. They try to do things. They virtue signal and end up paying organizations that are just there to capitalize on that situation, because there are. That's actually what happens. Actually, there's organizations that'll just hang out in the shadows, hanging out in the sidelines, and then they know when there's situations like this, when there's a lot of attention, when there's shortages, when there's stress from other political issues, or when there's other rationing or just, things happening, that's when they'll step in, whisper in the ears of the dumb idiot manufacturers who aren't paying attention, suggest that they're giving them some insight. In reality, exploit, pull money out of the situation, keeps the company ignorant as hell because they think they've done something. They spent a bunch of money and they got results. They're going to be told by the exploiters, oh, you made a difference. Here's a bunch of numbers. Look how well you did. Their customers are going to just be customers. So they're going to go, oh, yeah, we love you no matter what. We love you. And then their complainers, they'll ignore all the complainers that give them any information about what really happened. So that's going to happen. You're going to see the large companies that are stupid just waste time. So I guess having some ability to go to these organizations, to some of these events, is cool because then you get to experience them, shove a little bit of 2A into them. There's the rallies. There's the evolution of the gun shows. There's the old gun shows, which are still worth going to because the old gun shows reach a lot of people, are in cool places, have a lot of history and tradition to them. You learn a lot, meet a bunch of cool people, and then find out where they're at. I don't want to assume that they're not up to date with 2A. They may be as current as anybody because usually people that go to gun shows are living guns. They're not casual gun people on every third weekend or gun people on Wednesdays when that one podcast is on, or they're gun people, when their one friends show up from being back on deployment, or they're gun people when their kids come back from school or something. We got a lot of gun people when type of folks. And when you go to the gun show, it's more of gun people all the time. And they're usually, they have a lot more to talk about because they talk about guns all the time. Let's see. So what else would be good to have as a 2A activist? We've been going for half an hour. Nobody's really saying anything. I can only name 5 anti-personalities. Really? Well, you've got Beto. You've got, what's her name? Pelosi. You've got Feinstein. You've got New York guy, Bloomberg. And then you've got the other New York guy. But then you've got as heavy as 50 boxes that you might be using for moving. You've got 30 caliber clip. You've got the president of California. You've got the other guy from California who went to jail for saying he's not 30 caliber clip. Who's the guy? I forgot what he said about going to jail. And then you've got going the other way. I don't know what Giffords has said yet, but you got her. You got her idiot husband. You've got what's her face that worked for Monsanto for a lot of years, getting Monsanto to be so awesome. And then Bloomberg paid her more to go work and act like she's grassroots. Oh, if you're not counting politicians. Then you got Matthew McI made $5.6 million a hay, who then preaches to everybody about guns. The police should only have guns. That guy, he's anti. You've got the Joan Behar, who is super racist and then goes on TV and just says racist shit on TV about guns. You've got the other one from The View, who's super racist all the time, and it was in movies with guns, Whoopi Goldberg. Oh, then, yeah, the kid who they're abusing, exploiting, and making him ruin his whole time. Yeah, that kid. There's probably more if we sat there thinking about them. Is it worth knowing all of them as a Second Amendment advocate? I don't even think so, because who cares about them? What's the worst that could happen? You'd hang out with them? The worst that would happen is you'd hang out with them somewhere, and then you wouldn't know who they are, and they would know who you are, and you hung out with them. And then what are they going to teach you to be anti-gun? No, unless they paid you a shit ton of money and we're like, hey, we'll give you all this money if you're anti-gun. Then what are you going to be anti-gun? So what's the worst that happens if you hang out with them and you don't know who they are? Maybe they figure out the gun owners aren't that bad, and then they go, oh, you know what? I'm going to quit being a jerk. So I think the best thing you could do is ignore those people, forget about them, and then maybe you meet them and you have dinner with them or something, and then they come out being pro-gun at the end of it, or at least pro-rights. Who cares if they're pro-gun, really? As long as they understand that there's 19.8 million AR-15s in the country right this second, and guess what? There has been for years, every single moment of every single year for the last however many years, and very, 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 very never happens with anything, right? Very few things ever happen with any of them. All right, so now other things you could use as a Second Amendment activist. I would think having an awareness of the current responses to the antis questions or demands or accusations or persecutions or whatever the words are. So, they're going to say the same old things. Why should you have this? You don't need this. How do you deal with this? So, they're going to have a couple of different things, and they're expecting, they think that they've got you. So they're expecting you to get frustrated and go, oh, my rights. Oh, but my property. Oh, but the Second Amendment lets me. And they think that's all we care about. They think that's our whole thing because I don't know if they're really in it that much. They're kind of down with it, but they're not really paying attention to what's happening over here. So as a Second Amendment activist, having some awareness of the debate and having some ability to keep the new responses would be good. Even if you don't know what all the new responses are, knowing that there are new responses gives you ability to be more confident in having a conversation with somebody, I suspect. Don't argue facts versus folks using only emotion. That's from Woods. Yeah, I suppose. They're going to come at you with facts and emotionally, because I'm just saying that because after watching the last couple of things, I'd started to notice a recipe, and that is to give you some version of only the police should have guns. So it'll say, you don't want crazy people to have guns, so only the police should have guns. Like, you don't want young people to have guns, so only the police should have guns. You don't want the murderers to have guns, so only the police should have guns. They'll say that, some version of that, and then they'll say, here's a list of murderers, and then they'll either tell you the murderers themselves. Some of them like to talk about the people. There's people that watch murder shows all the time. Some people dig the people, the murderers. Then there's the people that'll tell you how many kids got lost. Some people like the carnage and the atrocity, so some people bring that up and they like listing it. They'll list it over and over. They can't get enough of it. Other people will be less heinous and less interested in making somebody infamous or saying a bunch of horrible shit. So they'll just mention the towns, and then they'll list off the ones that they've been told about. They don't want to hear things like Woods is saying. They don't want to hear about all the towns that kids are dying in, adults are dying in, people are dying in on a daily because of other things. They want to talk about the kids that they've been told to worry about that happened when mentally disturbed people did horrible things in an attempt to commit suicide and become infamous and get the media's attention. But yeah, those kind of things, you're not going to be able to have good arguments or good discussion or good anything. So that's something that is probably an element if you want to pursue that, or if you anticipate yourself getting into a position where you might need to deal with having a conversation with someone at a time when it's emotionally stressful for them or you or both. Then having some ability to de-escalate, what's the verbal judo, some of the canned responses, some of the things to not do. That's pretty important too, to know some of the things that can trigger and piss people off and shut people down so that you completely lose any kind of communication you might have had going. Having some ability to communicate with people is probably a good idea. But none of these are prerequisites. You don't have to do all of this stuff, and you don't have to do any one of these things, and you don't have to do any combination of these things. You could do just one. You could do a chunk. You could do something adjacent to any of these. As I mentioned, the person who might be having a commute or some sort of an opportunity to listen to a podcast for 2 hours, or might enjoy listening to a podcast for 2 hours, takes the time to listen to a podcast for 2 hours. Doesn't have to be during a commute, I guess. That person has the opportunity to then share their experience, their time spent, and to create more archive if they just appreciate the podcasts they listen to. I appreciate the military podcasts I listen to each week, so I include them in our 2A weekly wrap up. Those things are freaking amazing, and the insight you get from listening to the different occupations that supported the various facets of the global war on terror, listening to people reminisce and recall and explain and all that is just it fills in blanks, and it lets you know the complexities that you couldn't even imagine. So again, being part of that and sharing it is helping to index it in the bigger picture for the mechanisms that are out there, the robots that read the internet. When you write down what happened in a show, in addition to the show's transcription, in addition to its closed captioning, in addition to whatever the description is from the person who created it, whatever it is, it's in addition to. So it only had so much stuff on the internet. Whatever you added more, and it added more somewhere else. And that's something, as a Second Amendment advocate, it's something that, again, having the phone gives you the ability to do that. Having the time and the inclination gives you the motivation and the opportunity. But now let's talk about something that facilitates it and something I have missed. And this is something you need no matter if you have a phone or a tablet or a computer or anything else. What am I missing? What am I forgetting? Somebody know what it is? This will get us right to the hour too, probably. That thing that is missing is, here, I'll put a commercial up, and then we'll see if anybody has, because there are some people watching live, even though this is in the middle of the night. We'll see if anybody has figured out what the thing is. I figured out I missed while we have this commercial for something that I find when I click on it. No, not that. How about the store?
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
Nope, nobody said nothing. So what you need that I haven't mentioned yet is presence. Not presence, but presence. So you need to have some place on at least one social media platform, but more than likely you're going to have a sign in, a login, an account, a channel, a page on more than one platform. More than likely you'll have at least one account on a few platforms. And I would say it's not unusual for people to have multiple accounts on multiple platforms, meaning 3 accounts on YouTube, 2 accounts on Instagram, 3 accounts on this one, 2 accounts on that one, and 2 accounts and 3 accounts and 2 accounts and 2 pages and 3 pages and so forth. Either because of work and school, or I like this interest and I like that interest. I like guns, but I'm scared to let anybody know about them. I like guns, but my work hates them. I like guns, but or I like this kind of guns and I like that kind of guns. A lot of 9mm shooters will have separate accounts. So when they hang out with their 9mm friends, they're Bob. But when they hang out with their regular friends, they act like they don't know that guy Bob. Oh, that guy Bob shoots 9mm? What jerk. That guy's such a jerk, right? So yeah, if you've got all that other stuff we talked about, the ability to get on the line, and then an interest in what's going on, and some awareness and some insight and some knowledge, and I guess some motivation, then you need some place to put it. You could go bug other people and ask them to put it on their social medias all the time. But I don't think that's going to happen very much. People tend to possess their social medias. Not too many people share them around like a bunch of hippies. That's kind of interesting. I never thought about it like that. But there's very few of these social platforms where it's just a big commune hippie thing where everybody's sharing everything without spoons. You know what I mean? Like everybody's just dipping their hands in there and eating out of it. Everybody's got their own username. Everybody's got their own account. That was very capitalist of them right off the bat, huh? Very, let's put a lock on every door. Huh. And you would think those people, a lot of those people call themselves hippies. So yeah, having some accounts. What's YouTube would say in here? Something about Facebook. But when there are loads of people are make guns normal. Wet farts. People rarely use YouTube. What? Very few people really use YouTube. Yeah, I suppose a lot of people use YouTube in the respects that they watch a video wherever it is they're at, and then the video came from YouTube, but they're not over here doing their thing. I agree with you. For a long time, I used to like the YouTube people, the people that created YouTube videos, and then it got very large, and it's not the same anymore. Now it's just like saying I like people in Tucson. Well, I like some people in Tucson, but I'm sure I don't like everybody in Tucson. So the YouTube has changed or whatever, but the problem is a bunch of us that do like YouTube know each other, and we've known each other for dozens and dozens of years sometimes. Wait, is that many years already? It's been a long time. So at least dozen years. So we're still going to use YouTube. And I'm sure there's other platforms where people do that. And the people on Facebook, they're just miserable. So I don't know what it's like over there anymore, but I know that they're miserable and that they hate everything. So I'm not going to use it. But I know lots of people use it. The same thing with Reddit. There's a bunch of people that use Reddit. I'm not going to use it. There's a bunch of people that use Discord. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the reasons why it's important for folks to decide to be Second Amendment advocates. Because the advocates out there ain't perfect, and they ain't doing it all, and nobody could do it all. People that could do it all are doing something else. I don't know why you're saying 2 minutes out, and I don't know what this means. I talk to dozens of people I known for decades every day. You mean in real life? That's different. Well, with that, I think we've chatted a bit about the things that you might want as a Second Amendment advocate: tools, attitudes, techniques. And I guess we can get into techniques too much, maybe a little bit there. So with that, we'll look forward to folks who might be putting out comments in the podcasts. We've been posting this usually Friday or Saturday after the weekly wrap-up. We'll take the audios from the weekly Daily Gun shows and put all the Daily Gun shows and put them up on the different podcasting platforms. There's a whole bunch of them now. So Podbean is one of them, Spotify and iTunes and iHeartRadio and a bunch of others. So if you're out there listening on those, like I say, leave some comments. If you're watching it on YouTube, feel free to leave some comments there. Doxing by the ignorant with those. Let's see. Doxing by the ignorant, those with nothing to lose, is a real thing. Concerned for myself, no, I choose violence if they choose, but my family's different story. Yeah, see, that's a different thing, I suppose. When we're talking about activism and using accounts, there's some strategy there. And if, well, I guess I should not lean back all the way. That's a great point, actually, that not everybody's the same. And, I'm sure like an 18-year-old girl who's just out on her own for the first time, especially in a world where they're trying to tell her she can't own a firearm, she may not decide to run the internet the same way as a 50-year-old dude. But that's a great point. And I think that there's definitely strategies and tactics you can do to deal with anything out there. So yeah, there's different situations for everybody, different things to be concerned about, and we can definitely have specific conversations about those. Oh snap! DJ's coming up with a good one here. Then as far as the family side of that one, that's a whole nother one too. So let's bring up DJs, and then I'll try to think about that family one. So DJ puts in, what about a sense of humor, a thick skin, a desire to learn, and an open mind? I don't think you need an open mind. There's certainly some open-minded activists, but a whole bunch of them are so concrete-minded it makes you frustrated as hell, and they get things done. So open-minded people are nice, but most of the open-minded people just stand around not accomplishing anything because they got nothing else to do. They're not, so open-minded that they don't have any ambition. Desire to learn, man, that would be nice, but I don't know. I guess some of them do. I don't know if that's a necessary thing. It's probably a handy thing. And then a thick skin, that's interesting. So on the internet maybe, but I don't know. And I don't know if I'm going to suggest somebody needs that. Again, if you've got that characteristic, that's nice, and you might want to share it to people that don't, and vice versa, because having a thick skin makes you weird. You know what I mean? If some people that hide behind their thick skin, some people that think that that's so necessary that they can't even have a normal conversation with people, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to suggest that's unnecessary. Sense of humor, though, that one I'm kind of digging, and I'd be down for saying that that's a necessary thing. However, I got to be consistent and say that you don't really need it, because there's some people that don't have it, and I don't want to leave them out. And some people ain't gonna ever do it because they got some issue with it. Somebody beat them with a sense of humor one time, so they're never gonna like a sense of humor. And they're allowed to like 2A, I guess, even though they suck at it. So there's definitely people out there that are mopes and are weird and that aren't gonna like nothing ever, but they're allowed to like 2A. So as much as I'd like to say all of those are I'd say they're nice, but some of them are probably, like say, the open mind and stuff would probably be detrimental to some people, to most people, to some people, to some number of people. So going back to the family thing, so I think that's an interesting thing. So you've got Second Amendment advocacy. Is it a family thing? Is it something that takes time from the family and has to be like paid for? Like, do you have to compensate in some other way for the time you take away from 2A? And if that's the case, where are we at as a place, as a country, as a group of people who have a common enemy that wants to take away our right to self-defense? What am I saying? Our individual rights, which happen to include self-defense. If we're going to depend on people whose wife, kids, parents, children, uncles, whoever is being weird to them or mean to them, or they're ignoring or being weird to or being mean to, right? So that's a whole thing, right? That is a good one. I'm not going to be able to be all, that's not something I study or something I pay that much attention to. But again, when we're talking about how to be a 2A activist, what if there was someone out there who had some kind of knack or flair with communication or with family dynamic or with getting people to figure things out or opening up people's eyes to stuff that their parents don't understand or their kids don't understand? How effective and useful would they be if they hung out in the 2A space and gave people motivation, incentive, insight, coaching, awareness, and some pat on the backs? That would be awesome. We got some mental health people, but we have a lot of mental health conversations. We never get anything like that, trying to help activists have a family life. There's lots of awesome organizations to allow veterans to reincorporate into civilian life, to deal with loss, to deal with physical issues, right? Just being a veteran in 2022 can be a thing for some people. So there's places, there's camps, there's hunting trips, there's retreats, there's get-togethers, there's picnics. How come there's none of that for 2A? Not that we have PTS, but What the hell? Why don't we have that for 2A? Would that go a long way for our 2A activists families? Think of how many ladies are in the girls with guns. Think of how many ladies are in what used to be called Well-Armed Women is now called Armed Women of America. And think about how many ladies show up at the mingle. Think about how many ladies are out there doing 2A work that ain't getting any recognition at all. And they're doing it, and they're ladies. So more than likely they're thinking about, should I keep doing this or should I just stay home and make that cake for Sally's thing that she needs a cake for maybe? Or they're ladies, so they probably don't even need a cake, but you know what I mean? They think they need a cake. So think about all that. And what could people do to facilitate that? And where would we be if all the 2A ladies out there had it a little easier? I don't know. Be interesting, right? So that was some good ones at the end there. Everybody thought it was over, and then we had some really good ones at the end there. Gunmetal Guy is coming up with humor, not any good. Wait, humor, not any good if they do a drive-by. What do you mean? Like if they come by and give you crap, and then I don't know. I think people that have a lighter, who are lighter, what's the word? That have like aren't worried about everything, don't get offended by those drive-by type of thing. If I'm understanding you right, like if the antis are going to come by and say something lame, like it's easy. I think it's better to just laugh it off or to give them a, well, I don't know. I guess if you're having a debate, you don't want to just laugh everything off or give them a joke. Tools. Yep. I think they're definitely tools. DJ's saying he meant the things he listed before as tools. So what about humor, thick skin, desire to learn? Definitely tools, just not necessities, I guess. Gunmetal Guy saying, I know you're ending this, but we should have a chat one day about tips for combating trolls and protecting family soon. Yeah, definitely. I don't know how to say I have a bunch of ideas off the top of my head for protecting family, mainly because I don't want to give weirdos any ideas or nothing. And if I just did it off the top of my head, I'd be scared that might happen, because if I'm just talking about experiences or things or, stuff, I don't really put any thought into that. So I wanted to be more tactical or strategic about having a conversation like that. That being said, I would hand it off to somebody else in a second who knows more about it, because I don't have a lot of time to put onto a new topic. I can definitely talk about stuff I know about anytime, but this would be something new for me, and it's important, and I wouldn't want to frivolously offer something that somebody might be listening to for their family. Like, no way. Because that's definitely going to be different, again, from somebody who's a 2A activist with a new family. Why wouldn't you want to be a 2A activist with a new family, right? Like, what the hell? We're only 2A activists for the next generation anyway. Like, we don't care. Most of us have lived our lives already. Like, we're done. We've got to play with all the cool stuff. Like, we're just riding it out. The youngins, the little kids that don't even know what's up yet, and the kids that haven't even been born yet, them are the ones that we're worried about 2A for, so that this stuff is long term and not some crap that you read about back in the day. But yeah, I think that would be an interesting one. I don't know who to bring together for that one and how urgent it is, but at the same time, if we don't do anything important for the sake of doing everything urgent, then one, we give all of our time to the other side who can determine what's urgent, and we don't get good at dealing with the urgent with one hand, right? We need to be able to do things one-handed so that we can do other things also. So yeah, I'm down for that. Promoting it, not running it. Let's see. Then a bunch of people saying hey to each other. Is barbecue in here? No, that guy doesn't show up for this show. Life work balance. I don't understand that one. That's up to everybody's thing, I guess. Especially after the last couple of years of craziness, right? Like that's a weird one. I mean, that was already weird for people, and then it got really, really weird. All right. Well, with that, I think we're right at about an hour. We had some fits and starts to the beginning of this one. Thanks to everybody who adjusted on the other end of the internet this evening for everything that was going on here. We will be back tomorrow. We're chatting about Delaware, some weird state. What did we say we're doing tomorrow? I know I seen it, but I don't remember. No, it's Alabama. So we'll be talking about Alabama on episode 1322. 1,322 episodes. They're not all like this. Bob was in here earlier. Bob was the co-host for, I don't know, 1,000 of those episodes or something. So, for a long time, it was a totally different show. This show, the Daily Gun Show, has changed in 1,322 episodes, at least 322 times. So lots of different stuff back there. If you want to look back into the archives, here's the thing. If you do, make some timestamps, leave some timestamps and let us know you're doing it. You're helping us out, and we'll say thanks. We'll give you something in return because you are helping us out. If you can find good stuff, there's 1,322 episodes. 22 of those episodes suck. I'll tell you right now, 22 of those episodes are not worth listening to. The other 1,300 of them are freaking amazing. They're really good. 300 of them, they're good. The 1,000 of them, though, holy crap, they're going to change your life. So when you're listening to those, you don't have to read them. But when you're listening to them and you find something amazing that's like, oh, this is going to make me a lot of money, or, oh, this is going to change my life, this is going to make her love me again, then put a timestamp on there and let us know. And then that way we can use it to enhance the lives of others going forward. And that's really what it's all about, is using this show to help other people have a better life. All right. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. We'll be back to pick you up later.
Ninja! Ninja! Ninja!
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Tonight's episode, That Was No Lady.
GearWebsites.com.
There's a super moon out there. The full moon closest to the Earth happening tonight. Go out there and look at the super moon.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com. Thank you for supporting our projects. If you'd like to buy us a cup of coffee, check out our Patreon channel.
The guys and gals at GunWebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thank you for watching GunWebsites.com. Do 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 do.